Everybody, welcome back to the Claremont Classic Garage. Today we're going to do a job on the Ram 1500. Let's get started. This is a great truck. We really love it. It's rigged out to do a lot of work. It can pull heavy loads. It's got the V8 engine. It's got the 392 axle ratio, the full tow package with the integrated trailer brake in the dash and everything. The only problem these trucks have is because of the coil spring rear suspension that I'm not complaining about, believe me, gives it a beautiful ride, makes this thing ride like a car. It is unable to withstand a lot of tongue weight. You put a heavy trailer on it and it just squats the back of the truck right down. Now, I've read up on it that according to Chrysler, they say, yeah, it looks silly, but it's perfectly safe. It just looks bad. I can't stand the look of it. It just drives me insane. And it doesn't even feel right. You're sitting in the truck and you're sitting in your seat and you're looking up at the clouds. You feel like you gotta jam on the brakes to get the front wheels on the ground to turn. So we're gonna do something about that today. We got ourselves a pair of Airlift 1000 air helper springs. You can see here, they just go inside your coil spring. So you don't need a bunch of brackets and clamps and stuff like that. It's pretty simple to install them. And they will add 1,000 pounds of load carrying capacity to your truck. So we're going to go ahead. I'm going to follow the instructions and we're going to put these things in. Here's what the kit comes with. You got your two bellows or airbags, whatever you want to call them. They seem pretty flimsy, but apparently they do the job. These little pucks go up on the top of them, I believe. You've got a nice roll of line, a hardware bag. I can see they actually give you 2 Schrader valves so you can inflate them individually, which is nice because sometimes if you get into a big banking curve, it can actually force the air from one bag to the other if they're on a common Schrader valve, and we don't want that. Here's our instruction book. We'll follow that. And there's the first step. Get her on stands. We can do that. First thing we did is jack the truck up, support the frame on axle stands, and then lower it down so that the coil spring becomes fully extended. Now, we don't want to put any undue stress on these brake lines. That would be bad, but you can see there's lots of slop in them. What the instructions call for you to do is to squeeze all the air out of the air spring and then kind of jiggle it in between the coils of the coil spring, which, yes, I agree, probably works. There's quite a gap in between these top ones here. Unfortunately, in my situation, this truck has been so laced with rust proofing, it is just gross under here. So what I want to do is I'm going to unhook the shocks, very carefully lower down the axle so as not to pull on these. If it does start pulling on them, I might have to take the caliper off or something. And we're going to see if we can just get the springs out. I'm going to take them over, power wash them, get the air springs installed into them, then we'll put everything back on the truck. So, 21 millimeter socket. We'll take the lower bolt out of the shock absorbers. So you can see here our flex hose has still got a little flex, and the spring comes right out. On the other side, the rubber bumper up here came with the spring. On this side, it stayed with the truck. So we just have to bear that in mind when we put it back together to make sure we don't jiggle that thing out. Let's go power wash these springs, eh? Also note that the springs are not usually the same from side to side, so you don't want to mix them up. There's about 8 different ones, and depending on the configuration of the vehicle when it's ordered, they are computer selected, and you may end up with 2 the same, but I highly doubt it. So we don't want to mix them up. Worst case scenario, if your springs still have the tags on them and you do get them mixed up, you may be able to tell by the witness marks on the axle pad and the rubber, if it stays up there and doesn't get turned, which spring is which. Or all you have to do is, like I said, reference the tag, phone the dealer with your VIN, and they will tell you which springs your truck was born with so you can get them back in the right side. Anyway, we haven't gotten ours mixed up, so we can go ahead now and get our bags installed. Well, contrary to what I had said earlier, Airlift does recommend that you use the T. That guarantees, I guess, equal pressure in both bags at all times. I do see their logic. If you blew one bag, it would kind of droop over to one side if they are individually filled. If you blew one bag with the T, they'll both deflate, and you'll probably have a better chance at retaining control. I don't know. That's my spin on it. So, what the heck? We'll do it their way. We can always change it if we don't like it. The hose just pushes onto this little barb on the airbag. And it's retained with this little spring clamp. They give you a bunch of them in the kit. It's very similar to the ones that are on like the fuel filter on your lawnmower. This is what it will look like in the end. This will sit up against the spring pocket in the frame. They give you this big fiber spacer because there's a rather large hole in the frame that this airbag would try to squeeze through, so that prevents that. We're going to put it back inside the spring, put the spring in the truck, and then get this hose routed up through the hole in the frame. You can see here where on both sides of the truck, the rebound bumper, or is that the jounce bumper? That's the jounce bumper. The jounce bumper has been contacting the pad on the axle. This here, I think if you bought one of the more fancy airbag kits, this is probably where it goes with a separate, like a completely separate airbag. But anyway, we're going with the in the spring ones because we just need a little boost. We don't need a complete air suspension. Oh, there's the left one put back in. We'll go ahead and get the right one assembled. Okay, so what I've done now, I've left this line in one piece because I don't know where the T is going to be or anything like that. So all I did was I dragged it across the cross member of the frame and down through the hole in this spring pocket here. And now we can go ahead and put it together. Look at me. This up here in the northern salt belt, if you want your car to last, you have to have it oil sprayed every year. And this here is the result of having it oil sprayed every year. William Archibald, I hope you're watching this because we spoke about this yesterday when I told you I was jealous about you working on those clean southern cars. This is what we have to deal with up here. Anyway, at least I don't have to fix rust if I do this. We've got our little spring clamp on there. So first it's going to go through the upper cushion. Then it's going to go through our isolator. And then finally we can attach it to our bellow. Or airbag, whatever you want to call them. When I worked on the air suspension on buses, we used to call these bellows. There we go. Hey, we just drop her down in our spring. And we can wrestle this spring back up in there. Now we're going to get the spring put back in. We may have to lower the axle down a little bit, but we'll see. You got to kind of pull on the hose because you don't want it getting kinked or caught up in there and squashed. Yeah, we'll have to lower this down a little bit. But that's okay. Okay. All right. No. It's so close to going in. Maybe we gotta turn it a bit. Where's the end of the pigtail? It's so close. There we go. Ah! Okay. Jack her up. There we are. We got both our springs back in. So now before I do anything, I'm going to put the bolts back in the shocks and get them tightened up so we don't have to worry about this axle coming down and stretching our brake lines anymore. This one I had to get it pretty taut to get the spring back in. The next thing I'm going to do is find a location for our Schrader valve and get the lines run. You want to get the lines run while you've still got the axle hanging down. That way you know when you push it back up, you're going to have sufficient slack in your air line so that if you ever have to lower it down to get them out, yeah, you're not pulling on the airline. And you want to even leave a little extra, because I kind of get the feeling if you ever have to take this apart, you'll have to cut them. I don't think they'll come off those barbs. So you have to leave yourself a little leeway for future. Here's our Schrader valve with the barb for the hose. And I've looked around back here. On modern pickup trucks, you've got a lot of places where there's plastic in the back bumper, which makes it easy for putting stuff like this in. So I felt behind here and looked behind there. There's no metal in behind here that we have to drill through. Just the plastic of this bumper filler. So we're going to put this right here. It says to drill a 5/16 hole. So what we're going to do is start with 1/8. And then we'll finish it up with a 5/16. Another thing, I'm just going to lower the spare tire down to get it out of the way. If your truck has the 17-inch wheels with the smaller tires on them, you may have enough room up under there to work around. But I want to get this done nice and tidy and all tucked away. And it's easier just for the seconds it takes to drop the tire down. We're just going to drop the tire down. We've got our... I got to watch because this little guy flew away on me one time already. This one is not as nice as the other ones. So we're just going to get it on. Come on, get on there. There we go. It's almost there. Once it's on the hose, then I don't have to worry about losing it. This one's just made wrong badly or something. Now we're going to get the Schrader valve on the end of our line. It just pushes on. I will tell you that the T underneath the truck, where we connected everything together, if you're doing this, the barb is a little bit bigger than the barb on these brass things. And on the T, just use a little bit of dish soap, or we used some silicone grease just to help the thing slide over. Anyway, so we put a jam nut on it and then a lock washer, and you want it to come through your hole and leave about that much because we have to put a nut and a washer on it, and we still need to have enough room to get an air chuck on. We can adjust that after if we need to. Let me get underneath here. Now, we put a rubber washer on. Even though it doesn't want to go on. There we go. Then our actual finish washer, nice stainless steel washer, a nut, and then we just tighten this up. There we go. And you can see there we've got plenty sticking out to get an air chuck on. Now, I do have managed to get this thing all packed with grime from underneath the truck. So we'll get an air blower and just blow that crap out of there. Well, we got our spare tire back up. Then we'll put the back wheels back on, let her back on the ground. Then I'll go grab a heavy old trailer and we'll see what these things can do. After I get all this guck off me and change my outfit, of course. Now we just torque up the wheels. They go to 130 on this, and then after a little bit of driving, we'll double check them. Now that we're all done, Airlift recommends that when there's no load on these, you still maintain 5 psi in the bags. So we're going to put that in them now with our special air pressure gauge that it starts at 20, but it's like deadly accurate. You just pretend 20 is 0 and you go from there. Don't ask me why. And what we're going to do first, we're going to measure, because I'm curious if 5 psi will move the back of the truck at all. I don't think it should. I'm also curious, I never measured, the cap and the few things that I carry around, how much that squashed the back of it down. Anyway, I don't know, but right now we're at 18 3/4 of an inch to the top of the drawbar. We'll put 5 psi in and see what we get. There we go, 5 psi. I don't think anything happened really. Yes, it went up a 1/16 of an inch. Yeah, so anyway, we're going to go out now and drop a trailer with lots of tongue weight on this and see the mess that it makes. Well, let's go drop a big heavy trailer on this thing, and you can see what tongue weight does to a 4th gen 1500. It'll even drop that one a good couple of inches when I drop the trailer on it. My old 93, man, it never would move. Let's see here. What did we do without these backup cameras, eh? Jumping in and out of the truck 50 times. Or get your wife back there giving you hand signals. Ah! Darn thing's too low. So let's see here. Before we lower the trailer, here's our starting point. We'll just go up through the kind of, take an unscientific measurement. Look at that. We'll call that 38 3/8 through the center of the wheel to the wheel lip. And back here, from the ground to the platform of the drawbar, it's pretty much exactly 19 inches. So let's see what happens when we drop this thing on. I've weighed this. It's around 750 pounds of tongue weight. Boy, that looks pretty sad, doesn't it? It just doesn't look good at all. Now, like I said, Ram says that that's okay. That's a function of the nice riding suspension, but I don't buy it. So this went from 19 inches to 13 and a half. So 5.5 inches, it pulled the very, very back of the truck down. And right over the wheels here, we had 38 3/8. Now we've got 35 1/8. So about 3 1/4 inches we lost here. So let's now fill these bags up to 30 psi, as Airlift recommends to be the maximum, and see what happens. So with the bags blown up to 30, like they say, we got back 1 inch back here. So we're up to 14 from 13. Let's see what we got back at the wheel. We are up to 35 and a half. So really a squat. We picked up about 1/2 inch. Not impressed. At any rate, I'm curious if we put it on with the distribution hitch. That would probably help it tremendously. Between the distribution hitch and the airbags, we'd probably see a really good level attitude on the truck. Now I just went ahead just to see what would happen and blew the bags up to 50 psi, which is what you can run them at if you get the heavy duty version. And we picked up another 1/2 inch. And over here at the wheel, we've got 36. So we're still down 2 3/8 or so of an inch. We've gained 3/4 of an inch from where we started. But at least like that, like it looks a lot better. But I can't drive these around with 50 psi in them. They're designed for 30. They'll blow for sure with 50 in them. I probably should have got the 50 psi ones. What we'll do now, just on a lark, we'll roll the car back a foot, maybe even 18 inches on the trailer, and see how that affects things. I rolled the car back about a foot, and we gained almost 3/4 of an inch here. We're up almost to 15, but the trailer hitch is still 4 inches shoved down. And over here at the wheel well, let's see. Remember, we started with 38 3/8, and now we've got just 36. So we're still 2 3/8 down at the wheel well. The proof will be in the pudding when I got to get the car strapped back down now, and we'll get this thing out on the road and see how it drives. So what I'm going to do right now, I'm just going to go out this driveway, down the road, back in the other driveway, and pull it back up here and see if things, you know, settle out or change in any way. See you in a sec. So after jiggling everything around, let's see what we got here. Pretty much the same. We might have gotten another 1/4 of an inch out of it. And then over here, we're still at 3 feet. Oh, you know what here? It looks a lot better. It's 36 3/8. Oh yeah, that's what it was before. So we're down 2 inches. So that, I guess, is not horrible. It's definitely better than it was. I mean, we were at, what did I say we're at? 36 and, yeah, 36 and pretty much a half. Before it was squatted down to 35, which really looked bad. So I kind of think now that the heavy duty, the black airbags, the 50 psi ones would have been a better bet in this situation, but live and learn. Nothing saying I can't buy a set of those at somewhere down the line and put them in. These ones, somebody will want these ones. Well, what can I say? The airbags are in. They do make some difference. I'm happy that I have them at 10 psi all the time, just to hold up the cap and the bed mat. There's probably 400 pounds of extra stuff back there that wasn't taken into account when the computer selected the springs for it on the assembly line. So at least keeping them at 10 psi will make up for that. We'll see when we start doing a little bit more towing with it. I do think probably in the end I should have shelled out the extra $100 and got the black helper spring airbags, or kept that money and just put it toward a proper airbag setup, you know, with the proper bellows. And I may upgrade it again later, but for now they're in there. We'll see what living with them is like, and we'll go and do a few tow jobs and see how it works out. Anyway, I want to thank you for tuning in. Hope you'll come back and see us again soon. see what we're doing next time on the Claremont Classic Garage. And until that time, this is Kevin checking out. So long for now.